be with the news sometime. Like, oh God, I don't want to hear that. But it's like, it's
Yeah.
kind of important. You're missing out on
But
some
also
stuff.
that the idea, I think, as well, that cancer or a diagnosis like that narrows your vision. You're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I've just found out that I've got
Fuck
cancer.
yeah.
And it's like, a bomb could fall and you're like, this is less relevant than what's
Yeah.
happened to me right now. But it sounded a hell of a lot like our clip.
They said, I loved hearing it. It said, some blah, blah, blah have concluded that in all cases, the killers are eating the flesh of the people they kill.
The people
And now
they
for a
kill,
Walking Dead
get
cast
up.
news update.
That would make my day if one day they turned on the radio and it's just our podcast of us just talking
Who are
shit.
these two?
Who are these two? So in breadcrumbs, and I figured I should call it Easter eggs because it's Easter and recent history and
Easter.
less recent history. Happy Easter, everyone. May Carol bring you a freshly caught bunny for your cabin. If that was Leah's cabin, we kind of covered that. I think it might have been, but I thought it might have been further away, her cabin. I'm not sure.
I think it was just like a few yards away. Daryl was just like camping out
Carol's
just
like,
over the hill.
my last love left. My bro will now go in. Yeah. The Half Moon t-shirt was a cool thing. The RV, is that the RV that we see in the lineup scene where they try and cut Rick's hand, or he threatens to cut Rick's hand off?
I bet you it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if that was the group's RV or not, but I wondered if we were seeing the origins of that.
Yeah.
Obviously saw the origins of Lucille the bat and of course Lucille the human. When Lucille has no hair, she bears a striking resemblance to Alpha, obviously because Alpha has this shaved head.
Oh yeah, maybe that's reminded him.
I think
her.
in the comics he says that explicitly, like,
Okay.
you remind me of my wife. The shitting pants line is a callback.
Yeah.
The lighting when he is beating up the bad dude when he's come back is so like the lighting that we saw in the lineup, like him lit from behind, talking down to the person he's about to kill.
That guy reminded me of Michael Rooker a bit too.
That guy was in. Did you ever watch Veronica Mars?
I never did. I think I saw one episode and it looked good, but I didn't get around to it.
He was the leader of like the Irish biker gang.
Okay.
That was Liam Fitzpatrick. We saw Laura. We saw Rick and Michonne. That was really nice.
Yeah.
I really appreciated that.
I
was like,
also
holy
went back
moly.
and watched the scene where Rick cut Negan's throat at the top of the hill where the broken stained glass was hanging from the tree, just to see like, oh yeah, we see Negan has his bat there. And I guess that's the last time we've seen it until now. And they just left it up there and somehow it sunk into the ground. I don't know.
I thought they buried it, but I think I'm wrong. I think I think they're wrong. I'm wrong, rather. You Are My Sunshine, I think, is what he makes Carl sing to him when he comes to the sanctuary. And we hear little Herschel singing it at the start of the episode. Dog food, we see Carl being prevented from eating dog food at the start of season 3. And generally just seeing a bit of sort of 2009-ish society and zombie apocalypse
flip
was really
phones and
interesting.
stuff.
Yeah, I was like, whoa. So that was it. I thought the kind of breadcrumbs, Easter eggs in show history were really interesting. I probably missed some, but there were some cool references there.
Yeah, I guess my number one is sort of like that. It was just, I titled it Some Things We Learned. We learned that Negan would sing You Are So Beautiful to me to Lucille, and that Herschel would sing You Are My Sunshine to Maggie. It's cute. The first flashback said 12 years earlier, and I think then there was a 6 months earlier that was probably around the time she was hearing reports on the radio that she ignored. So I guess that confirms that we're about 12 and a half years into the zombie apocalypse. Just kind of what I thought. I've been saying 12 years.
Only 12 and a half years into this podcast. Actually, 11? Like, not far off.
Yeah, it's 11 and a half. Yeah.
Nuts.
That's crazy. I love that. That's cool.
It's great.
I loved when she got mad at him for the jacket. We get the leather jacket origin and says, tell me you did not spend $600 on this Happy Days bullshit. Because that's a Fonzie reference, kids who don't.
I think that's also something we've mentioned on the podcast.
Yeah. Well, I always
think we've
talk
slept
about
him up for
Daryl
that
being
before.
like the Fonzie of The Walking Dead, but now they're talking about it in reference to Negan, but I love it. I had a few other ones, but I think we've already talked about all of them. So any other notes?
Oh, yeah, a few actually. I felt a bit bad that ironically setting fire to the house probably didn't actually kill Lucille because we know that zombies can live burned, so that's a bit bleak.
That's what one of the
I guess
listeners
if you
said
get
too, but
if you get hot enough,
yeah,
you must. I don't
think
know.
We've seen, yeah, maybe I need to clarification on that because I know we've seen zombies walking around on fire and even charred, but I would presume that if they were engulfed in flames, that they would just turn to ash. They're in a human body. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's what I thought.
Yeah, I couldn't decide. I was like, okay. So yeah, I felt a little bit like it's very dramatic, but also like
fire, but maybe there.
No. We've definitely seen crispy zombies.
We have.
I haven't eaten my dinner yet. I probably shouldn't be talking about crispy zombies. But,
if you burn up your G.I. Joe, it gets crispy. But if you throw it into the fire, it's just going to melt into nothingness. You know what I mean? It just depends on how much fire there is, I guess.
I love that Herschel is a little rat. I think that's a really cute nickname. I liked seeing baby Herschel being a little rat.
Yeah.
There was an overhead shot of Jeffrey Dean Morgan, of Negan digging holes and this very slow walker kind of coming up the hill. And I've just written, was it a slow walker or was it very quick holes? So answers on a postcard, please. What else have I got in my notes? Lucille really into other people. She's like, we need other people, we need security in a group kind of thing. And I think that's something Negan maybe takes to heart with the Saviors, but just in the wrong way. I like the use of music. Well, actually, the first time they started playing You Are So Beautiful to Me over the zombie reanimation, I laughed, and I don't think I was supposed to, but then the second time it got me emotionally, so I couldn't decide. I was like, this is either emotional or really funny, and I still haven't decided.
So beautiful.
And I watched it the second time at double speed. It was like, you are so beautiful. It's just like, oh no. So I feel a bit bad laughing at that. Reasons why I'll never be allowed to babysit my nieces and nephews is because I think story time is over, bitch, is like my favorite new phrase, and I probably shouldn't say it to children. Lucille asked Negan to do her fighting for her, and he says he'll do that now. The last thing is speculation and a bit spoilery. Interesting that they gave us so much detail in the stakes and practicalities of chemotherapy when we know that Ezekiel might need such treatment.
Oh, yeah. Maybe there's a connection there, huh? Negan.
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting because I was like, oh, they're going into quite a lot of detail about like how this could be sustainable, which is good for Department of Suspension of Disbelief, but also makes me wonder, like, if Ezekiel were to end up somewhere with that kind of functionality, does that mean that he would be able to be treated and perhaps treated successfully? So that just had me thinking.
Maybe, yeah. It could be a coincidence, but maybe not.
Yeah. Either way, How about you?
We've covered most of mine. There was no voiceover intro in this one.
Was that wasn't just my rip. Okay.
Yeah, as far as I know, yeah.
Good to know.
And I didn't understand, I must have missed something, but what was that thing with Negan like unscrewing the screw under his chair or table or something, and then Franklin was like continuing to unscrew it, but it never went anywhere?
Franklin managed to cut his ropes with it.
Oh, okay. To just get the screw out to cut your ropes.
Yes,
that was the point of it. Okay.
He cut the ropes and then he smashes a chair over the bad guy.
God, how did I miss that? Oh well. Okay.
It was all quite quick, to be fair, because Negan kind of comes all like Terminator-y, and yeah, it was easy to miss, to be honest. It took me the second time. I was like, oh, that's where that was going. Okay.
Well, that was cool. People listening, I'd love it if you'd write in and let us know what you thought of everything that we said. It's been fun to hear your reactions to, other episodes. This is a really different kind of a group of episodes here, and opinions are all over the map, so we love to hear from you guys.
And I believe we changed some minds last week with our coverage of the episode that apparently everyone else in the world hated except for us.
Yeah, we liked it, and it made some people hate it even more, so that was cool.
Yes.
I'm just
kidding. It's good when you can intensify hatred.
Yeah, I think and when she might have just been being nice, but she said we changed her mind, so that was nice.
I'll take it, Anwin. Thanks.
All right, we'll take a little break. There is more to come. Stay with us.
So sad tears are in your eyes. Come on and come to me now. Don't be ashamed to cry. Let me see you through. 'Cause I've seen the dark side too. When the night falls on you, you don't know what to do. Nothing you confess could make me love you less. I'll stand by you. I'll stand by you. Won't let nobody hurt you. I'll stand by you.
Obvious threat to untold numbers of citizens.
The people it kills get up and kill.
Are they slow-moving, Chief?
Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
This is a Walking Deadcast news update.
First thing, Emily Kinney, who of course played Beth,
Ooh.
is starring in a new film called The Enormity of Life, alongside Breckin Myers from Clueless and Road Trip, and Giselle Eisenberg.
Oh, that dude.
Yeah, from Life in Pieces and American Housewife. It's the story of an emotionally despondent man on the brink of suicide who unexpectedly receives a large inheritance and meets a quirky single mother, Emily Kinney, and her eccentric young daughter. Together they embark on a journey of hope and healing. So it's a small movie. I watched the trailer. It looked interesting and, kind of like last week's episode of The Walking Dead, one of those quieter indie movie type things. But I'm curious about it. It's available, April 6th, so that's Tuesday.
Yeah.
And it's on Apple TV, Google Play, Fandango Now. And I will put links to the trailer and the movie site in the show notes if you're interested.
I feel very old, the thought of Emily Kinney playing a single mother. I'm like, whoa, you seem about very young.
Yeah. Well, she's 47 now, so no, I'm just kidding. And next, Collider interviewed Jeffrey Dean Morgan. It wasn't about this episode, but I thought it was interesting. He talks about when he first heard that Walking Dead was going to end with season 11. He said, the news when we got it in the middle of the pandemic was a complete surprise, not only to me and the rest of the actors, but to everybody involved in the show from production. Scott Gimple and Angela Kang had no idea either. It came from nowhere, and there was such a huge pivot. I think they had season 11 all mapped out where they were going to go, and suddenly it became, we also have to close the story in a way. It took everybody by surprise, so it was a massive pivot. And then they threw in the 6 tacked on episodes to season 10, and instead of doing 16, we're going to do 24 more. There was a lot of stuff to wrap our heads around. So from talking to Angela Kang on her 10th anniversary, she said that she was not expecting it, so she was surprised. But I didn't realize that they had already mapped most of it out, and then they had to kind of revamp it a little bit and add some extra episodes to make it conclude.
That's interesting. So I wonder if the pandemic played more of a role than we maybe thought.
I don't know. I don't know, but I feel like maybe the AMC execs were just, Walking Dead has been going down in the ratings. And maybe maybe it's too expensive for the viewers, or they just wanted to freshen things up, or I don't really know. But it does make me wonder, because another thing that Angela Kang said in our interview was that, Robert Kirkman was saying, in my final issue of the comic, I put a lot of sort of hints of storylines that you guys can follow in the show. So I feel like this means that they were expecting to go further than Robert Kirkman went in the comics.
But yeah, interesting. I feel like Netflix cut a lot of stuff. I feel like a lot of the networks are squeezing now, for various reasons. I don't know how linked to the pandemic it is, or if it's just the way things were going, but it's interesting that they did have to do that. I hadn't appreciated that.
Talking about filming season 11, he says, now that we're just getting to the end of episode 3 of this new year, there's so much story, and it's very grand in scale. Our first 2 episodes, we had 28 shooting days. Normally we do that in 16. So it suddenly becomes a lot bigger somehow. I think everyone is keenly aware that it's our last year as far as the writers and stuff. It feels good. It feels like the story's really good. I've only seen the first 4 scripts, and they're great. there's so far no reference and no feeling in the story that it's ending at all. It's opening up all these new chapters that are really interesting and cool. I'm excited. And he also said that, when they did these 6 episodes we've just finished watching, that there were a lot of restrictions, but for season 11, he says it's full on back to the normal size.
That's good. It would be sad if we had no like massive Z action in the final season. If it was all like artistic, like stocking filter Zs in the background. I'd feel a little bit sad.
Fans would be pissed at that.
Yeah.
There was an interview with Melissa McBride on AMC.com about last week's episode. There were a couple of answers I thought were kind of cute. They asked, how is Dog as a scene partner? Dog is a great scene partner. Dog is loyal, compassionate, fierce when he needs to be, and very smart, similar to his real-life counterpart, Seven. Seven is always excited to be on set, enjoys the attention, affection, and treats. He works hard. He's very results-oriented, yet with a very fun attitude. He comes prepared and is always ready to make any necessary adjustments while we work the scenes out in rehearsal. He also enjoys improvising from time to time just to keep things fresh and slightly unpredictable. I adore them both.
That's really cute. That makes me really happy.
She was also talking about the little rat. I guess there were 2 rats, and how one of them got sick partway through, so they got the other one, but she thinks that they were just helping each other out to get equal screen time, and that they were being sneaky.
That's adorable. Oh, bless her. Bless the animals and bless Melissa McBride.
And then the last one I have here from her, they ask, that was a touching scene with Jerry where you realize all along that he knew what was up with Carol. Was that as heartwarming for you as it was for the audience? She says, that scene with Jerry/Cooper was very heartwarming to me. Just as Carol was comforted by Jerry's hug, I was also comforted. That was definitely 50-50 Carol, Melissa standing there in that hug. There really is little else better than human touch to bring a sense of calm and containment, kind of grounding again. It's one of the many beautiful and simple gestures that affirms, you are here, we are here. Carol needed that. And a Cooper hug, well, that was like being enveloped in a cloud of pure soul. Turns out I needed that too. I remember just resting in it. We were shooting these episodes during the pandemic, and still with season 11 underway now. The safety protocols had already been in place for a while by then, including the relative degrees of isolation we've all experienced, the uncertainty, heavy hearts, worry, frustration, thoughts all over the place, trying to sort it all out and keep yourself together. I really do hope that viewers feel that hug in their heart, a Jerry group hug. I just love that she went on for 3 paragraphs talking about the hug from Cooper Andrews.
I mean, I would. If I could get a hug from Cooper Andrews, I'd probably write a novel about it.
That's awesome. Okay, through the magic of podcasting, it's now the next day, and we have some breaking news. It's just been announced that Walking Dead Season 11 is going to premiere on August 22nd.
Ooh.
So that's cool, man. I'm glad we didn't have to wait until October.
Is that earlier? That's earlier than usual then. Yeah, it's usually October, kind of Halloween-y time.
Angela Kang said in a statement, quote, coming off of the 6 additional episodes for season 10, which focused on smaller character-driven stories, we're excited to kick off season 11 with absolutely no character development. No, I'm just kidding. Bigger than ever. The stakes will be high. We'll see more zombies, tons of action, intriguing new stories, never before seen locations, and our groups together in one community for the first time, trying to rebuild what the Whisperers took from them.
Ooh.
So we know it's a 24 episode season airing over 2 years. They aim to finish up in late 2022. I don't know if they'll air 12 in a row this year or break those up, but I would guess, I don't know. What do you think? I mean, starting in the summer, maybe they'll just go do 12 in a row and then start the next half next summer.
I wonder if that's what it is. It seems, I feel like they're starting at that time for, like, there's an agenda there of like when it should finish or something. So yeah. I'm inclined to think it will be 12 and 12 split up in the way that you describe. That makes sense to me.
And I guess if they started in late August, that would be about 3 months. September. So it might wrap up in late October, early November, something like that.
That makes sense because they usually miss a week or two for various public holidays in America that I never know are happening and then happen, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Fear the Walking Dead, which starts next week, ends on June 6th, season 6. That leaves a 10-week break between Fear and The Walking Dead season 11 starting in August, which is exactly how many episodes is left in World Beyond. But they had said World Beyond was later in the year, so I don't think they're going to slot it in there. I think it's going to be a break, but I don't know. They haven't announced.
I wonder if World Beyond will come after then. I'm not sure. It seems like a neat block of time, but who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. But either way, well, I kind of hope it comes after because it's nice to have a little break sometimes. And also,
it's good to have a summer holiday.
Yeah. But we're going to do our season 10 wrap-up crossover with Chris and Jason of the Talking Dead podcast either way. And we'll probably do that just a couple weeks before season 11 airs, just to kind of turn it into a kind of a catch-up kind of thing too. It'll be catch-up for us too, considering season 10 started way back in 2019.
I honestly will be like, what? That was this season? I think it might actually be my first proper crossover with those guys because we didn't do one after the first finale because we knew that more was coming. So that's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too. That'll be fun. But I am glad that we kind of did our impromptu crossover with them where we just answered listener questions last year.
That was great.
Cool.
It was so fun.
2 more short things. One, I was reading the IMDb page for this week's episode, and apparently it was revealed somehow that Negan's last name is Smith.
Oh, the mailbox.
Okay.
I couldn't read it. I meant to go back and read it, and I didn't.
Negan Smith.
I always assumed that Negan was his surname, and I don't know. Negan's a weird name. Are there any actual Negans
Because
in the world?
I think it's Lucille Smith. That's what they've got in the Wikipedia now for him, Negan Smith. It just makes him sound less imposing.
It's Negan Smith. My surname is Smith. It's N Smith in the phone book. Look it up. There's only 20 of us.
Right. Negan's my middle name. I'm actually Herb Negan
Herb.
Smith. And then actually 2 more. So the line that Lucille hears on the radio, the killers are eating the flesh of their victims, I also read in IMDb, was cut right, or lifted right out of Night of the Living Dead, the granddaddy of all modern zombie movies.
Just like our Sting is also from that, no?
Yes, it is, yeah.
They're listening to this podcast, damn it. AMC, I want my commish.
And then the last thing is that today is your birthday.
It is. I'm 21. Can you believe it? 21 again.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. It is also, random fact, my mother's birthday. So I was just on the phone with her, wishing her a happy birthday. So, yeah.
That's nice. Nice connection.
Yeah, it's good. It's nice being an Easter kid because you get generally a little bit of sunshine and a lot of chocolate. So it's been a good day all round.
Yeah, it seems like a good time for it. Okay, that is it for the news. Let's get into some listener moans, groans, and grunts. Our
first comment comes from Karen Morvay, who says, I watched last week's episode with Daryl and Carol. I really loved it. It's the first Walking Dead episode I've seen in so long. It was like spending time with old friends. Thank you for recommending it, old friend. Not that you're old. We've just known each other a nice long time. Oh, that made my day.
Right? I just texted her and I'm like, hey, I think you might like this one. It's a quieter one and it focuses on practical, aspects of the zombie apocalypse like you've always said you wanted to see. And so I was really happy that she actually watched it and that she wasn't like, meh.
Why did you make me do this?
yeah. But she did like it. So that was cool.
That's so nice.
And I'm sure Karen will be on at some point, hopefully multiple times before the end of The Walking Dead. Probably not to cover an episode of The Walking Dead, but we have breaks where we can cover other horror movies and stuff, and we'll get her back on.
I really hope so. That would be really nice.
Alex Vandiver says, fantastic episode. Can't wait to see how Negan and Maggie interact next season. I think Negan still needs to save little Herschel in order to soften Maggie's feelings towards him. That does seem like somewhat likely event to happen, but we'll see.
I wonder if Negan's going to have to sacrifice himself or seem to sacrifice himself at some point. I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, he still doesn't have a dad because of Negan, so... But yeah, no, I think Alex makes a very good point. Sarah Setters says, without a doubt, this was one of the best episodes of the entire show. JDM and Hillary were perfection. I didn't want it to end. Spectacular. Yeah, and did you know that was his wife? His actual wife.
Of course, yeah. It's Negan's wife.
Yeah, Negan's wife.
Yeah, I guess what would be like super surprising is if Maggie just orders little Herschel to take a baseball bat to Negan's head.
And little Herschel's just like, sure, Mom. Does it?
That's really dark.
I hope you've got your shitting pants on.
I learned that by watching you. Anwen says, loved it. Wow, Barcode has been with Negan since the start. That's Laura. It was cool to see her beginning, but it makes it a little hard to believe she turned to the good side after All Out War, if I remember correctly. Yeah, that's right. I mean, it was hard to believe that anyway, to me, that she did. It was interesting. But there was enough time that passed that I'm sure, you know, some crazy shit could have happened where that turned her around and made people trust her. Anyway, she goes on.
Sure.
Plus, is it just me or is young Negan a little Nicolas Cagey? It's definitely cagey.
And then he ends up in a cagey. Ew. Yeah.
Yeah, with the way his hair and I think his beard made him look like Nicolas Cage. His stubble.
Yeah, for sure. I've spent a lot of time yesterday wondering how they dye a beard. I assume you just like brush something into it, or I don't know. Answers on a question.
I might be finding that out fairly soon here, but as of now, I don't know.
Bob Oakes says, since Angela Kang took over The Walking Dead, the quality of the show has definitely improved. But this episode, wow, it hit me right in the feels. We knew the backstory, we knew where the story was going, but in this episode we lived the backstory with Negan. I can't remember the last Walking Dead episode that drew me in so completely. This episode is the crown jewel of Kang's run. I personally think it will be impossible to top. Well, I don't know. I mean, Bob, that's such lukewarm praise. I just don't know where you stand on this episode.
God, why are you still watching? Yeah, some people just so loved this episode. I've read from more than one person that it was maybe their very favorite, or definitely their favorite of these 6, but one of their favorites of the whole series. Gemma Hall says, I absolutely loved every moment of Here's Negan. I thought the episode was outstanding, and the performances from both JDM and Hillary BM were just top-notch. The real-life intimacy and chemistry between them was obvious. I liked all the layers to Negan. In the past, it's shown that he has the propensity for violence and when he attacks the guy in the bar, but his interactions with Lucille post-apocalypse show his sensitive and caring side. He's also a coward because he couldn't stay and face her dying. It is her death that pushes him over the edge to become Negan. I also liked when Negan calls his alter ego, Negan, a clown. He does recognize that's who he once was, and I do believe he's come a long way, but is he fully redeemed? He kind of smirks at Maggie on his way back to Alexandria, so I'm really not sure what his plans are. I think Here's Negan showed that he's neither black or white. He can be a very good guy and save the day, or can be opportunistic to get what he needs/wants, i.e. when he gave up the doctor's location for Lucille's drugs, and when he attacked Hilltop with Alpha. I can't help but love him, though. I'm sorry, Glenn. I still love you too.
Gemma nailed it. I agree.
Yeah, no, I know. You're right. I mean, we talked about it already a lot on this podcast, how we think that most people they're not like evil. They're just, some people do evil things and have the potential for good. And I think Negan's definitely one of those.
But you really got me thinking about like tethering to society and how Negan had that potential beforehand. So that kind of changed my mind a little bit of thinking about it as well. So yeah, maybe by the end of the show, we'll have solved all these philosophical problems. Yeah. I like to think we will have.
I really think that the show's aim is to have us feel like Negan is redeemed by the end. And I'm open to that, but I definitely don't feel like that right now.
Yeah, well, they've got 24 episodes left to convince us, and I for one, I'm certain that they listen. So there you go. So next up, we've got Karen Shee. Is Negan's story one of the best redemption arcs in TV history? I hated Negan when he first showed up. He talked too much, leaned back too often, was too foul-mouthed and sadistic. I even projected some of that hate onto JDM, thinking that the show should have cast someone who better resembled comic Negan's physical stature. Now I can't imagine anyone else in the role, especially especially after JDM's layered performance tonight. Hilary Burton Morgan held her own and made a deep impression in just a few scenes. I loved the shot of a backlit, zombified Lucille chomping inches away from Negan's face. Just heartbreaking. If anything, this episode reminds me that people's lives are messy and non-linear. We make mistakes and amends over and over again. Mind you, Maggie has every right to stare daggers at him. There is a space to champion both Negan and Maggie at the same time. Stray thoughts. We know that Glenn played Portal, so was he the one playing video games with Negan in the earliest flashback? I immediately thought of Jason when Lucille mentioned Happy Days. Good catches. That would be hilarious. Oh my god, I mean, not hilarious because he dies horribly, but you know, it'd be funny.
This is so true. Like, we all move back and forth between being good, like when we stop cheating on our wives when they get cancer, and then we get bad and bash people's heads in with baseball bats, but then, you know, it's just normal.
It's the full spectrum of human behavior. We contain multitudes.
Okay, Reva Joe says, love Jeffrey and Hillary in this episode. They have a great chemistry, as you would expect, and they're just beautiful together. My heart broke when Negan returned to see his beloved had went on her journey without him. The transformation to the Negan we were introduced to way back when was awesome, and seeing how he struggles to reconcile with himself moving forward in Alexandria with Maggie there is something I cannot wait for. Me either. Yeah, that would be cool.
Oh, and can I just say, I am listening at the moment to Rima and Ben's coverage of The Stand, and I'm loving it. It's
Awesome.
really, really interesting to listen to. I wish I'd listened at the right time and watched at the right time, but Rima, it's great, and I'm really enjoying it.
I mean, I love when people who missed something that I covered just went back and listened anyway, and so that's nice. And that's on Strange Indeed for people who don't know.
Yeah, totally worth it. Because I think The Stand is on more stuff in the UK now. It's more available. I think it's on Amazon Prime, so that's good. Lisa Tubbs says, so after 5 boring episodes, this one was worth the wait. I actually shed tears, which I haven't done in a long time with this show. Hilary Burton Morgan was fantastic. This episode brought me a bit of peace with why I've been struggling with my Negan love. Does it erase what he did to Glenn and Abraham? Never, but now I understand where he's coming from, and I can't wait to see how it plays out with Maggie. I'm definitely looking forward to season 11.
Mm-hmm.
Yay.
Tracy Lowe says Hillary was a badass as Lucille, and JDM, well, he's just phenomenal. Portraying the current Negan to the gym teacher / cheating husband, then portraying the Negan we all grew to hate back to present Negan, trying to not go back to bad guy Negan. But can bad guys really change, especially in the apocalypse where there aren't therapists, treatment, etc.? Gabriel tried, and can Negan and Maggie live together? Tune in next week on The Walking Dead.
Carl Stawicki, Hilary Burton and Jeffrey Dean Morgan probably would not have been able to shoot such an intimate episode like this in the middle of COVID if they weren't a real life married couple. I did think that.
Yeah, totally. Neil James says this is potentially my favorite episode of The Walking Dead ever. Negan has such a solid foundation of a character now with so much depth and substance. Meeting Lucille filled in all the holes this character had. Watching Negan play Battleship Field Edition to find his bat was great. Then the first thing we saw Bat Lucille do was knock out Negan. The last thing we saw Bat Lucille do was knock Negan out of his life rut. The demise of Bat Lucille was so damn good. I was sad it didn't have the same end as the comic when the Whisperer War was happening, but now I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. Negan was finally able to say goodbye to Lucille and close that chapter of his life. Huge kudos goes out to the director, Laura Belzy, who helmed what I consider the best 3 of these bonus 6 episodes.
Yeah, I feel like Laura Belzy's one to watch.
Yeah.
She's really, really done herself a good credit in these episodes.
And I do think it is like that. Probably this is the biggest reason why I feel like Negan is now determined to be a good person and prove himself, because he burned that bat after thinking about all the things that it represented to him, you know?
No, I agree. Yeah, just like the jacket kind of represents his jackass kind of side as well. It's, completely.
Yeah. Okay, we got 3 calls. Here is Mark.
Ooh.
Hey, Jason and Lucy, this is Mark. I just want to leave you some feedback for The Walking Dead Season 10, Episode 22, I believe. Ooh. Here's Negan. Well, I loved it. I've been anticipating this episode ever since I heard it was in production. and it's amazing. My takeaways from it were it was great to see a story that was a little bit different than the comic and how we got it from the comic. Didn't make him look like a complete jerk or a jackass, which I enjoyed. It showed him as a regular guy, but yet he did cheat on his wife. The way that was found out was different. The fact that it didn't happen before the apocalypse happened, because in the comics she died in the hospital as it was occurring, and he fights his way out. There was no him fighting for, the treatment that she needed for her cancer, which sucks, but that was actually really good and endearing. I love the fact that they had an Iron Maiden poster behind her over the bed, Life After Death, so we got to see a bit of Eddie on there, which is pretty cool. Kind of interesting how life after death, and she comes alive after she died and attacks Negan, or tries to, even with the bag over her head. We get that one song from A Return of the Dead when Lucille realizes the texts in the time between where Negan's not picking up and her best friend's not picking up. Do you want a party from Return of the Living Dead? It's cranked up just like in the movie, so I thought that was pretty cool. And I really loved Hillary Burton and Jeffrey D. Morgan's portrayal. I thought they were really, really good. We got to see Laura, tattoo freak girl, tattoo neck, Lindsley Register, who I got to talk to on an interview on another podcast. But overall, I thought it was really great. I'm glad. It was one of my favorites of these in-betweens. So I look forward to what you guys have to say, and I can't wait to hear the podcast. Talk to you guys later.
I forgot Mark did that. You should have said the name, Mark. It would be okay. I think it was on Panels to Pixels, Mark's podcast, but I'll find out if I'm wrong about that.
I think that's right. But yeah, it would be good to get that confirmed.
Yeah, but she's great. So that was a good one. Good
amazing.
to talk to her. Thank you, Mark. Here is Claire from Colorado.
Hi, Lucy and Jason. It is Claire from Colorado calling, and I had a few things to say. I think I'm probably not alone in loving the episode. I really, really loved it. It only makes me wish that they did more episodes like this, where we got to see backstory and cool things like that. I just think Walking Dead is just like such a primo show for doing flashbacks. And I know we've gotten a few, but like this one was really, really good and juicy, and no pun intended. And I just wish they did more things like that, because I think you said a while back that maybe they don't do that because it came off the heels of Lost, and that was kind of Lost thing. But I just love the flashbacks whenever they do them, and I just think they're such a treat. I loved Negan in this episode. Jeffrey D. Morgan, like, top of his game. Loved the story, loved Lucille. It was such a treat. I had one beef, and I hate when they have the opportunity to do a fresh zombie and they don't use it. Like, when Negan killed that first zombie, I thought it should have been a fresh one, because we're used to seeing old crusty zombies, and I want to see fresh ones when they're 12 years ago, because I think the fresh ones are actually scarier, because they kind of they still have some of their humanity. They're not all gross and, half skeletons. But I really liked it. And I also noticed, I wonder if you guys noticed, when he had the guy on his knees in the bar, how much that scene resembled Rick and his friends in the lineup when they first met Negan. It just really had that same essence and that same feeling and tone, and the way Negan talked and just the lighting and everything. So anyhow, those are my thoughts. Glad to hear the podcast. You guys are so delightful to listen to every week, so I enjoy it as much as the show. Have a great day. God bless. Bye.
Thank you, Claire.
Thanks, Claire.
Yeah, that's really interesting about the zombie. I would guess that they didn't make it a fresh zombie. There's two reasons that come to mind. One is if he were to stick an axe into a zombie that looked more human, I think that a big point of this episode is to get us empathizing with him, and so that would maybe feel a little bit like, oh God, just a little bit more like you're killing a person there. And even though we know it's not, it just might feel like that. But also, I think also the point also of that scene, I just said also like 3 times, was to show that Negan had trouble killing the same kind of zombies that we always see, so they just wanted to show like this is how he used to handle this kind of zombie. I mean, I know they're relatively the same the way they act, whether they're fresh or old, but just to kind of feel like, oh yeah, this is the same thing we always see, but he's having trouble with it.
I think Claire watches Fear. I might be wrong, but there was an absolutely cracking, fresh-looking zombie in Fear this past half season. So if anyone out there is in the
that was awesome.
need of a very freaky-ass looking fresh zombie.
That was because of the formaldehyde.
Oh, it was so creepy. It was one of the best
really
things
great.
on either show was that. But yeah, that raised the bar for freshness.
Yeah,
in a horrible way.
I haven't watched this week's Fear yet, but people are saying, "Oh my God, did you see Fear?" And I'm like, "What?" So I'm curious to watch it.
Yeah, there's been a lot of buzz, and I'm like, oh,
yeah,
okay.
But I don't want to be spoiled yet. Okay, we have one more call. I mean, you're right about the flashback thing. I think this show totally lends itself to that. I suspect they didn't do it early on because it came off of Lost, and that's what Lost did. And I also remember hearing an interview when Glenn Mazzaro was showrunner and Scott Gimple was just one of the writers, but Scott and Glenn were both together. And I remember Scott Gimple saying, "Oh yeah, flashbacks might be good," and Glenn Mazzaro was like, "No, I don't like flashbacks." That wasn't exactly what they said, but that's the impression I got. So I think when Scott Gimple came on board, then there were more flashbacks because he liked them.
I just saw as well, I meant to mention this earlier when you were updating the news, comicbook.com spoke to Angela Kang, and she said that originally the plan was to have Dwight come back, not Laura, but they weren't able to make it work because of COVID, because I think Austin Emilio is wherever Fear films. Is it Mexico, Texas?
I don't know.
And they couldn't get him. So, they couldn't get him, so they got Laura instead. So interesting.
Okay.
Yeah,
it would have been cool to have him, but it was kind of fun to see Laura too.
I like her, so I'm fine with that.
And last, Steve Brown.
Yay.
Hey, Jason and Lucy, this is Steve, and I wanted to say, first off, that definitely listening to your podcast makes me often want to go back and rewatch the episodes, put it in a new light, and so I do appreciate the podcast for that. And I want to also remark that I carried various multi-tools my entire military career. Just about all of us do it. You never know when one of those things is going to come in handy. So I totally understand him searching those bodies and finding those multi-tools on them. And I even still, now that I'm retired from the military, in my backpack, I have a Leatherman that I use occasionally. All right. Can't wait to hear. Yeah. All right. Okay, I just started my first watch of Here's Negan, and I just wanted to throw something in real quick. I don't want to go too long, but this whole Fight Club-esque thing where he's seeing a version of himself, Savior Negan, and when he says you can get a lot further with a kind word and Lucille than with just a kind word, that has got to be a homage to The Untouchables with Robert De Niro.
Oh.
They even call him Capone later in the episode. I guess we still don't know if Negan is his first name, his last name, or what, because she just calls him Negan. Well, that was really good. I just finished the second watch, and, it doesn't make me sympathize with Negan at all. He still did the things he did, and he still deserves what's coming to him, and I can't wait to see that in the next season. All right, can't wait to hear you guys talk about this one. Talk to you later.
I guess if their last name was Negan, then he could say they could both call each other Negan. She could be like, "I'm Negan," and he'd say, "I'm Negan."
And I'd be like, "Negan is Negan's wife," and everyone would be like, "Great observation." I didn't know Steve used to be military. That's so interesting.
Oh yeah,
Steve. Yeah, and I guess old habits. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, and thank you for mentioning that. You like to go back, or sometimes we tempt you to go back because we make you rethink things. It's really nice. And we appreciate when you guys mention that you appreciate the podcast. And that just makes me remember that we actually haven't had any reviews or ratings in a while. So if you guys have hopped on the podcast recently and you haven't had a chance, totally appreciate it if you'd go over to Apple Podcasts and give us a rating or review.
Yes.
Whatever you think about it.
Even if it is just 5 stars and Office Ladies is better. So I assume Office Ladies is a 6-star. I actually listen to Office Ladies, and every time I listen, I'm like, damn you.
They are better. Damn it.
Yeah, they're just more interesting.
Well, they were on the show.
Well, exactly. You were on the show, Jason.
That's right. Damn it. All right, now it's time for a little comic talk. I went back and reread Here's Negan.
Yeah. What did you think? Comparison wise,
before we get into it, I always forget, but I just want to remind you guys we're going to be talking about the comics, so there will be spoilers for the comics if you haven't read them, and also maybe some things that they might adapt to the show in the future. So if you don't want to hear that kind of stuff, you should probably skip ahead. I liked it. It felt a little compressed. They're trying to get a lot of storytelling in to like what seems like 2 issues worth of comics, but I had forgotten that there's only a couple of pages about him and Lucille, which is what this whole episode is about. It's more about him putting together the saviors. But I liked it. I think it's a great comic. What about you?
Oh, it's a great arc. Both that, and I reread Negan Lives as well, which is the one that they released during lockdown. Yeah, it's interesting. I think in the comics, people are more. It's funny because although they're comics, and in that sense, they're less like real life. Like people like, we always say that Abraham and Rosita could have come like just straight off the pages of the comic because they were like these larger than life people. I think with Negan and Lucille, it's much rougher in the comics. Like Lucille is kind of harder, and
he's crasser,
she seems to be
way crasser.
He's way crasser. She's more. Well, obviously she doesn't look like Hilary Burton Morgan, who's a freaking supermodel, but she's also more aware that he's cheating around. Like there's something about their relationship that's just less wholesome, kind of.
Yeah. And he doesn't stop cheating right away when he finds out she has cancer, and she knows about it, and he's like, okay, I stopped seeing her, and she's like, why'd you do that? Why do you choose me? So it feels kind of cynical and sad.
Yeah, there's like a sadder element to it, and she dies early on in the apocalypse in hospital, and Negan doesn't put her down.
He can't bring himself to.
Yeah, so he befriends this boy who does it for him, and they strike up a lovely little rapport, and then obviously the boy is then immediately killed. So I didn't even remember his name. It might be Jeffrey.
And after he finds out she has cancer, his mistress is actually the one to break it off. But it suggested that he tried to sort of make her do that, because he tells her, my wife has cancer, and then she breaks it off with him. But then when he goes back to his wife, he says, I didn't want to see her anymore. Or maybe he's lying to his wife. It's not totally clear, but my impression was that he really didn't want to see her anymore. But yeah, so then he's in the hospital. No story about the cancer meds or anything like that. She just dies, and then he goes out on his own.
And they didn't. They did a little bit of kind of switching around where some of the dialogue was the same, but in Here's Negan, we see it with him playing ping pong in his basement with some kids, like kind of giving them a pep talk and whatnot.
Yeah, I missed that. That's one thing I wish was in the episode, is him with his gym students.
I wonder if we would have had that if it wasn't the pandemic. I wonder if like the video game thing was just a way of having that without having other cast members there.
Probably,
But it was very similar dialogue of like, this will make you stronger, like, being a bit rough with them.
Don't be a pussy,
Yeah, but aside from that, I think overall the show gives us... The show is bending over backwards to give us a more sympathetic Negan. And I think for this beginning of his arc, it works, but I think the comic is sticking the landing much better on the resolution of that arc. And I don't think we're going to see the same resolution for Negan, because basically in the comic you see him live in peace, in isolation for the rest of his life. And I don't think we're getting that.
I mean, I think it's Brandon who lets him out of his cell in the comics. And with the idea, he's like, Brandon is this savior, fan of the saviors. And so he's trying to convince Negan, let's go back and join up with the Whispers and help them attack Alexandria. And then Negan just kills Brandon, kind of like he did in the show. But he immediately, as soon as he can get us a chance, he kills Alpha and brings her head back to Rick. And even then, where, like I was saying before, unlike in the show where he's only done things to prove that he's on their side now and he's reformed, Rick still banishes him forever. And from that point on in the comics,
we don't see him.
We have some solo stories with him, like 2, but we don't see him. He's not in the story. He's not in this upcoming arc with these stormtrooper looking guys that Ezekiel and Eugene are with. Negan's nowhere to be found. And so I'm glad that and I figured they would find a way to keep Jeffrey Dean Morgan in the mix, not just let him go for this last season.
And I think what they've shot their wad with a little bit, and understandably so, and I've spoken about this before, so I won't go on about it, but the conclusion, the last time we see Negan physically in the main comics is Maggie confrontation. So Maggie comes in to kill him, he breaks down, and she leaves him. And that's the last we see of him. And it's a kind of satisfying ending for both Negan and Maggie, because Maggie walks out of it able to move on with her life. And we just see him kind of accepting that this is the way he has to live now. And we see in the final issues, we know that, like...
Well, I don't know if we should go that far.
Okay. Yeah.
I think we should wait a little bit for that.
I think we should.
Don't
I think
you
we should as well.
But about Maggie, like, because he's banished, Negan, and I think he's in a cabin, kind of like he was supposed to be in this episode. And Maggie and what's his name? Dante.
Who's not
nothing like
not
the Dante
spy.
in the show. They go out there because she's intending to kill him, but he just is like begging her to do it. Do it. Holds the gun to his head, and she's like, "I want you to do it," and she's like, "I'm not going to give you the satisfaction." So we know reverse psychology works on Maggie, but you got the sense he really did want her to. Yeah,
and we saw like muted version of that scene in Rick's final episodes, but I feel like it didn't pack as big of a punch, because it just the time, like in the comics we're looking at years after, and Herschel's a similar age to Herschel in the show, and it's really earned, whereas in the show when we did have it, it was only like maybe 12 months after everything had gone down, so it just didn't feel as, I don't know, it just didn't feel quite as earned. I think it was still a great scene and Lauren Cohen did a great job, but knowing that she was coming back, I think if they'd known she was coming back, they wouldn't have done it, basically, which would have been the right decision.
Yeah. It's hard to keep all these plates spinning and know who's going to be available when and everything. Also, I noticed, in the comic, he meets Dwight, who's in charge of the group that becomes the Saviors, Dwight and Sherry. And he kind of just naturally takes over because he's this dominant guy, and Dwight's like, well, so I'm not the leader now. But it made me wonder, I would have been I wonder if they considered having Austin Emilio come back.
I did wonder
for this
that
episode.
I think it's funny because I think his interactions with Dwight in Here's Negan as well. Negan in the comics is a little more unhinged straight off the bat. Like Jeffrey Dean Morgan, straight off the bat, lol. The Jeffrey Dean Morgan we see here is more like man-child loser boyfriend with potentially a bit of violent tendencies if provoked, whereas in Here's Negan you see him slip into like self-mythologizing and kind of making Lucille this bat and kind of starting the cult early on, whereas with this we kind of leave him at a point where he's still a human, so it's interesting to see the contrast there.
Yeah, it's like he got practice just being the boss with all his gym students and speaking to them in his crass way. And he, after Lucille died, he just considered the whole world his gym students. But
the whole world
also,
was his ping pong table.
It's this comic also, maybe I'm getting a little too deep into it, but it shows that people he met just kept dying, and so he didn't even want to learn their names, and he started to it really talks about how he came to think of weakness as being a recipe for death. And so when he was around these people that would eventually become the Saviors for long enough and started to like them, he decided, all right, we're going to be strong and not take shit from anybody, and we're going to protect each other, and just kind of took it to the extreme. Yeah,
he went very, very far in the extreme direction.
Yep. All right, that's our show, episode 426. Thanks for listening, everybody. And that, I think, for sure this time wraps up season 10. We'll see.
Fingers
Maybe they'll add
crossed.
a few more.
Who knows? At this point, who knows? We've said it so often. Who knows? Yes. Luke spin-off. Sorry.
It's the first time The Walking Dead has had, I mean, like back in the day, most shows had 22 episodes per season or more. So now Walking Dead is like other shows, but they took 2 years to do it.
Just took him a while. A wee while.
Yeah, it took him a while. In the meantime, if you want to give us a call, you can reach us at 650